Cyber warfare is a term that just a few decades ago seemed like pure fiction, as hard to believe as fairies and elves. In today's world, cyber warfare is a real and concrete threat. And its impact is even broader than what we usually imagine when we talk about war. Every day we watch news reports from the front lines of the battle between Ukraine and Russia. Bombings, air raids, and cities struck by violence. But there is another battlefield of war that is not as visible to the eye but is just as important, if not more critical: cyber warfare. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is considered the first true cyber war in history. This is a type of battle where both official and unofficial hackers from both sides use the most advanced technology to weaken the enemy's structures and systems. This is not just a series of isolated cyber attacks. It is an integral part of the mission. This is war itself, continuous, organized, and with a clear strategic objective. In this video, we will examine the complex world of cyber warfare in the modern era, and how it has evolved in the context of the war between Russia and Ukraine, and other aspects that will surely amaze you. In my research, I came across information that deeply moved and impressed me, and I'm sure you will also be surprised by what we have discovered. But before we start, if you are new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. Let's define cyber warfare. I say attempt because, in reality, there is still no universal definition that is fully accepted in every context. Cyber warfare refers to using cyber attacks to disrupt or destroy computer systems and key infrastructure of a state or enemy group that causes significant, widespread damage. These kinds of attacks can have various objectives, from espionage, propaganda, to manipulation, sabotage, demoralization, and economic warfare. Focusing on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it's clear cyber warfare began before Russia invaded in February 2022. Since 2014, along with the annexation of Crimea, the two countries have continuously exchanged cyber attacks in cyberspace. In most cases, Russia leads by using broader and more sophisticated types of attacks. A notable example of this happened in 2015, when Russian hackers attacked a power company in Ukraine, resulting in a power outage for more than 25,000 people. This attack used a notorious Trojan virus called Black Energy, which installed destructive components in the affected systems, causing their operations to be completely paralyzed. To help you better understand how this happened, let's examine the actual mechanism of the attack. The affected companies received fake emails that appeared to be from official Ukrainian government sources. Opening this email instantly triggers malware that infects your whole system. This type of cyber attack has a very serious impact that can affect not only companies, but also entire cities and people. And it's not just limited to energy companies. This is only a small part of a much broader threat. The same threat has targeted many organizations in Ukraine. In January 2022, just weeks before the actual invasion, Russia intensified its cyber operations, simultaneously attacking around 70 Ukrainian government institutions. These attacks aimed to cripple the country's infrastructure and communications to prepare for the final phase. In February 2023, Russia officially launched its land invasion after a long, systematic cyber war. These events occurred. In 2022, a series of successive cyber attacks were also launched against Ukraine's defense and communication systems. The goal was to disrupt Ukraine's military communications and create chaos. And although it was not completely successful, the plan was partially carried out. These attacks demonstrated the clear coordination between cyber operations and actual ground combat. This proves that for Russia, cyberspace is not just a support but a full and essential front of the war. For many years, Russia has been known as one of the most active players in cyber warfare. Various units and organizations have operated under state supervision and approval. This includes security agencies like the Main Intelligence Directorate and Federal Security Service, which are deeply involved in cyber espionage and cyber sabotage. These agencies are joined by well-known hacker groups like Advanced Persistent Threat. 28. They're better known as FANCYBER. And Associated Press, 29, also called COSIBER. These groups are involved in hundreds, if not thousands, of cyber attacks against Ukraine and other Western countries, including the United States. A notable example occurred in June 2016 when both FANSIBER and COSIBER were blamed for the cyber attack on the Democratic National Committee during the heated United States election season. In this attack, they publicly released nearly 20,000 emails and over 8,000 attachments from the organization. These operations continued in the United States. The same Russian hacker groups also carried out cyber operations against various international organizations and are believed to have interfered in the elections in France and Germany through digital manipulation and information. On the other hand, the Federal Security Service continues to play a huge role in Russia's cyber strategy, and it is considered a pillar of their internal and external operations in the field of digital manipulation. The Federal Security Service, commonly known as the Federal Security Service, handles more than just Russia's internal security. It is also involved in cyber operations and other secret digital missions. It also collaborates with the Foreign Intelligence Service, SBR, which mainly handles cyber espionage, using technology to access sensitive information. And if you think that's enough, there are still many other units and groups involved, such as various technical teams and centers related to defense that conduct operations in cybersecurity and cyber warfare for the government and armed forces of Russia. Cyber warfare is clearly central to Russia's strategy. But this is where we enter a more unclear territory. Not all cyber attacks come directly from the Russian government itself. Private groups and civilian hackers also voluntarily work with the Kremlin. Sometimes it's for money, and sometimes it's because of ideological beliefs. One of the most well-known and considered powerful among these groups is KILNET, led by an individual around 30 years old known by the alias KILMILK. Under his leadership, a vast army of hackers and supporters was formed, similar to Anonymous but on the side of Vladimir Putin's Russia. And KILNET is just one of the many similar groups. Due to the scale and number of these operations, it's hard to gauge the full scope of cyber attacks by Russian actors, though some incidents have stood out. In 2016, the group Fancy Bear carried out a notably destructive operation. They used Android-based malware to attack the rocket and artillery units of Ukraine. They distributed an infected mobile application that, according to some reports, caused serious damage to the systems, including the alleged destruction of up to 80% of the targeting systems of Ukraine's D-30 howitzers. Even though Ukraine denies the extent of this damage, the incident still shows how severe and deep the effects of cyber warfare can be in actual combat. Russia often combines cyber attacks with physical military offensives. For example, in March 2022, after their advance on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, was halted, they attacked the city's main television broadcast tower in cyberspace. The aim is to instill fear and confusion in civilians. They also launched hundreds of cyber attacks against Ukraine's tactical command and control system, a crucial platform for its artillery operations. To target this system, Russian hackers developed approximately this many different types of malware. If these attacks had succeeded, Russia could have gained access to all the services connected to that system, including tablets and smartphones. And that means it would have been possible to see messages on Telegram, photos, and other sensitive data stored on those devices. More dangerously, the malware also scans Starlink's settings to identify connected devices. If successful, Russia could pinpoint Ukraine's command centers, as many are connected to Starlink antennas. From there, they'd be easy targets for artillery or missile strikes. According to Leah Vityuk herself, head of the Cybersecurity Service of Ukraine or Security Service of Ukraine, this kind of cyber attack poses a huge danger because it directly links digital infiltration to actual destruction on the battlefield. However, cyber warfare is not only focused on military targets. It also aims to undermine the stability of society, weaken people's morale, and sow chaos. In 2022, Ukraine managed to block more than 76 bot farms, consisting of over 3 million fake accounts as part of their campaign against disinformation and online manipulation. And these bot farms are just a few among many. Many more have been discovered not only in Ukraine, but also within Russia's own territory. Despite all of this, Ukraine has proven to be a tough opponent in cyberspace. Russian cyber attacks have had successes, but Ukraine's cyber defense, often credited to the security service of Ukraine, has also achieved major victories. This resilience mainly comes from two key factors. Ukraine's experience since 2014, combined with international cooperation, now forms the basis of their strong cyber defense. The European Union is known globally for allocating over 10 million euros to support Ukraine's cybersecurity freedom. In addition, the country also received assistance from various states and private companies such as Microsoft, which provided technical support and protection against major cybercrime threats. And in response, the government of Ukraine established the Information Technology Army of Ukraine, a volunteer organization formed just a few days after the invasion. Its goal is to fight digital enemies. According to some reports, it is now composed of 250,000 to 300,000 people. And although this number may be exaggerated, it is still clear that the creation of a special unit for cyber warfare proves how important this field is in the current war and how necessary it is. Since the invasion began, an estimated 10,000 cyber attacks have targeted Ukraine annually. The government said nearly all state systems and even soldiers have been targeted by Russian hackers. However, Ukraine's Information Technology Army is not just made up of hackers sitting in front of computers and far from the action. That is not really the case. This unit's operators include hackers and special military personnel trained in both digital operations and combat. Many of them operate directly from the front line because, according to experts, this expands the reach and effectiveness of their operations. They quickly respond to Russian electronic warfare, particularly attacks on Ukrainian drones and the use of decoy and camouflage drones. According to Leah Vityuk himself, to properly carry out many of these operations, physical presence on the actual battlefield is necessary. This shows that cyber warfare is not separate. In traditional warfare, it is now fully interconnected, and Ukraine is also not staying in a purely defensive position. Often they are launching cyber offensives themselves. For example, Ukrainian hackers successfully attacked a Russian communications satellite used by the military, which resulted in the temporary sabotage of its operations and the acquisition of sensitive information. Similarly, they also breached the Russian railway system, clearly indicating cyber warfare is now a primary weapon in modern warfare, not just an addition. Because of these attacks, the ticketing system stopped operating for about 20 hours, causing severe chaos. And as we've mentioned, cyber attacks are not only aimed at destroying systems, but also at spreading fear and panic, especially among the civilian population. A highly controversial aspect of war for both sides. Cyber warfare can also be used to lower morale and intimidate the enemy. And as many know, Russia launched an intense campaign against YouTube, which led them to create their own video platform as an alternative. However, this platform also fell victim to a Ukraine-linked cyber attack, temporarily disabling it just hours before it was to live stream the Victory Day parade in Moscow on May 9, 2022. Russia needed nearly 5 days to fully regain server control. This type of attack is known as a denial-of-service attack or distributed denial of service. And in simple terms, the goal of these attacks is to make digital resources like websites and online services inaccessible by flooding them with excessive internet traffic until the system becomes overloaded and stops normal operations. But listen to this because you'll really be amazed. Ukraine included its own citizens in their cyber intelligence effort through a mobile application that allows civilians to provide real-time information about the movements and maneuvers of Russian forces. This greatly helps the military since the information can be used right away. Although this comes with risks, it shows that in modern warfare, any smart device, especially smartphones, can be used as tools for military and intelligence operations. A simple cell phone can now serve as eyes and ears on the battlefield. The cyber war between Ukraine and Russia extends beyond just these two countries. Because it is inherently difficult to monitor and trace, and due to the lack of clear international regulation, cyber warfare offers a level of impunity or lack of immediate accountability, something rarely seen in traditional military action. Russia has already carried out cyber and hybrid attacks on several NATO members, which usually lead to only minor punishment or sanctions. This clearly shows how hard it is to prevent and punish acts of war in cyberspace. Hospitals in several countries aiding Ukraine have also been targeted by cyber attacks. Even former United States President Joe Biden has openly expressed his concern about the ongoing cyber attacks linked to Russia. In November, Ukrainian Defense Intelligence announced the success of a large-scale cyber operation carried out against Russia's Civil Aviation Authority, known as ROSABYATSEA. According to reports, this operation resulted in the acquisition of a large number of confidential documents. Among the documents obtained were the agency's daily internal reports covering more than a year and a half, as well as technical details of the operation described as a complex and special cyber mission. So far, ROSABYATSEA has not released an official statement on the incident. It's important to note that this is the first time the government of Ukraine has openly claimed responsibility for a cyber operation against a Russian target. This is a clear signal that in the era of modern warfare, cyber warfare is no longer a secondary issue, but an integral and strategic part of current conflicts. The Ukraine-Russia conflict proves beyond doubt that cyber warfare now plays a major role in global affairs. And while it may be considered less physically destructive compared to traditional wars, it undeniably has the power to change and reshape the rules of modern conflict. We also expect that in the near future, almost all armed forces, especially the major powers, will establish and expand special units, divisions, and exclusive systems focused solely on cyber warfare. In fact, there are already many groups, some controlled by the state, and there are also digital mercenaries, although it is still difficult to clearly categorize some of them. It is also not yet clear how important the role of cyber warfare will be in the final outcome of the war between Russia and Ukraine. One thing is certain, its influence keeps growing rapidly. Cyber warfare is still in its early stages, but it is developing very quickly, and it is clear that it will become one of the main factors in all future wars. While for some this kind of technological warfare is exciting, for others it is frightening and seems like a form of modern terror. Aurora. Before we end, it's important to remember that everything we've discussed in this video shows how the nature of warfare is changing in the modern era. It's not just about soldiers, tanks, or missiles anymore. Behind the gunfire and explosions, a silent but dangerous battle is unfolding. It's a war that can't be seen by the naked eye, yet it has the power to change the course of an entire nation. Cyber warfare is evolving, and as we rely more on technology, we face increased exposure to new threats. The events we've witnessed between Ukraine and Russia are a clear warning of how significant the role of cyberspace is in future global conflicts. This isn't speculation or theory, it's reality. If there's one lesson we should remember, it's the importance of information, preparation, and critical understanding of what's happening around us. Today, knowledge serves as a defense. If you enjoyed this kind of content, deep, documentary style, and based on real events, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming discussions about geopolitics, modern warfare, and stories that shape our world today. This is Noel Polo Television. See you in the next video.